Happy to be joined with actor Jesse Kove. Jesse, how are you?
Hey man, I'm great. It's a beautiful rainy day in Los Angeles. I'm obsessed with the rain, so I'm very happy.
There is something that's very calming about rain. A lot of people I know don't like it, but I've always liked rain. There's a certain tranquility about it. Like, as long as there's not any major wind or anything like that, but just rain, you can't beat it. It's a perfect napping weather.
It's so relaxing. I mean, especially like in LA, it's such a gift when we get it. So in other states they have 4 seasons. So for us, like to get rain, I'm just standing here looking at the window. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I live in Florida, so I know exactly what you mean. It's like it's either
I love Florida. Love going to visit. Love working there, and I always have a good time there. And I do love how much it rains in Florida.
what's your favorite part of Florida or favorite area, I should say.
Um, well, I've been to Miami, which is fun. I've the beaches in Clearwater are incredible. I mean, just some of the best I think in the country. I did a movie in Dunedin, which we may talk about, which was just such a sweet little town near Clearwater. Also Orlando, of course. We've got Universal Studios and Disneyland, Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
Where else? I haven't been to the Keys yet. Really want to go to the Keys, the Florida Keys. I think that's it. But just all around, Florida's great.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I mean I'll already have gone when this airs, but I'm going to Disney World in a couple of weeks, so you can't beat it. You really can't.
I'm so jealous.
There's some
Oh my
great
god.
areas in Florida. It's funny you mentioned Dunedin because on my old podcast I interviewed Tony Armour, who's the commissioner of
I
the
know
film
Tony.
program there. Yep, and he mentioned the movie that you did out there. So
Oh,
that's awesome.
Taste
Now
of Love.
I was hoping you'd bring it up. So yeah, tell
Yeah.
me a little about the movie you made out there.
Well, first off, Tony's great, great
Mm,
guy.
yep.
I had a great time with him. He's got so much energy, so smart, and I was happy to have him. He was on set visiting many, many times, so super grateful to have him on the team with that movie. Well, the movie that we did in Dunedin was called A Taste of Love. It's with Aaron Cahill, who stems from such a wonderful history of film and television, and tons of Hallmark films, and she's just so lovely, and it's a great story. My father actually plays her dad in the movie, which is great. And in a nutshell, basically, her and we were childhood friends, and we kind of we loved each other as kids, and then we kind of separated. We were together, and then 10 years, 7 years later, whatever, she comes back to town that I live in, where she's from, and there's a little bit of drama, and then we kind of rekindle the relationship, and more drama ensues, and a lot of it surrounds food, and it's just such a heartfelt story. I mean, it was probably one of the most enjoyable films I have ever worked on. The producer Lincoln Laugesen he's a good friend and just a lovely, lovely man, and I'm really, really excited for people to see this movie.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it too, and I just love when I hear about film projects being made in Florida because I feel like, Atlanta is big, New Orleans is big, really all around the country over the last few years as I've been doing podcasting, I hear more about independent movies being filmed in areas outside of Los Angeles because growing up watching movies, I was like, well, they're all made in California. Now, as a kid, I didn't know any better, but yeah,
Right.
I love hearing more stories and specifically films being made in Florida. So that makes me happy to hear.
Oh man, me too. I can't wait to go back and shoot another film down there. We just had such, I mean, it was really perfect. It was like almost like I was on a vacation and working at the same time because the hotel, the Fenway that we stayed at, was like right on the water. And every day I'd go back after filming a long day and just look at the beach and go, and just relax instantly. And then when I had a few days off, I'd go on the beach, and it was just beautiful. It was really lucky, and if more people get a chance to film there, it's really a special experience. So very excited about that. And I obviously love traveling. When I work, it's nice to be in different places that I've never been before, and I think that also helps add on to the character sometimes. When you're in a new environment. So yeah.
Absolutely. And it helps, to kind of immerse yourself in the culture of whether it's Florida, if
Yeah.
you go to Memphis or Austin, Texas, wherever the case may be, just being in a different environment, not just to work, but kind of immersing yourself in it, it makes you a better person, I think to
Yeah,
get
I
out
love
to
that.
get outside your comfort zone, your area that you're
Yes,
in all the time. So
I
I
totally.
yeah, absolutely. So let's backtrack a little bit. Your dad is Martin Kove, aka Sensei Kreese from Karate Kid and Cobra Kai. Uh, I'm curious as to your dad being an actor. What kind of films did you grow up watching? 'Cause, you grew up in the business. What movies specifically did you grow up on, and maybe helped shape your career as an actor?
Yeah. Well, I'm a '90s baby, so Karate Kid and all those movies were in Rambo were all before I was born, but obviously I've seen them probably more than anybody. And at the time when I was younger, my dad did, he's doing tons of action movies, in the late '80s and early '90s. So I saw my dad fighting and beating up people all the time. Some of the films he wouldn't let me watch because they're very violent. And then some other films he's done, which are just, which were, some romance movies and things like that were just great, and some period pieces and stuff. So such a variety of movies I was able to watch, and some really special ones. Obviously, Karate Kid was part of my childhood too, which when I watched for the first time, I loved it. It was a great movie even for me as a kid, and so for people nowadays to see it again through Cobra Kai and then to go back and watch the originals, it's a really special thing.
Absolutely, and I know we'll definitely get into Cobra Kai in a bit, but it's interesting watching that show and then going back and watching the Karate Kid trilogy, because to me it just adds such new layers that weren't there before. And I
Yeah,
think that's what's great about the show and why it's become the hit that it is.
I totally agree. There's so many layers. It's almost like the word it's like you can't really. It's such a. It's like been. Hold on, I have the perfect word. It's like fermenting. For a very long time, decades. And you almost can't really plan that out. It almost has to be on its own in its own beautiful way. It's like you can't go make a movie now. It's like, what, in 20 years we're going to get the same people, or 30 years. I think, was it Richard Linklater did that with his couple of his movies, and so obviously it's one in a million, but it's just amazing. It's really cool for people to see it. The writers are incredible. The whole team is amazing, and Netflix and I don't know how much you want me to get into Cobra Kai now, but
Yeah. Go ahead.
I just like you said, it's very layered, very very deeply layered, decades in the making, and layered decades, years of different emotions and different trials and tribulations that every character has gone through, especially Ralph, Billy and my dad. And obviously in this upcoming season, people are going to see, Terry Silver come back. And Thomas is a great guy, just an awesome dude. And so it's really exciting. And I think also it's cool that, the new generation of younger kids today can watch the show and really enjoy it with the younger kids in the show. And also, get a chance to see the history of where it came from. And it kind of just adds to the whole thing. I remember I was doing another interview and I talked about this. I saw this collage of, like, I think it was like 8 or 9 posters from, Karate Kid 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then Cobra Kai season 1 through 4. And it was just so cool, and then I happened to be a part of that universe, which was such a wonderful thing for me personally. My character who came in season 3, I played Varsity Captain David. I end up, which was like something I never thought in a million years, I end up being the guy that bullies the young version of my dad, of John Kreese, in after, high school, college era, and in the 1960s. And it was really amazing how that all happened, and the fact that even happened in my universe. And I was really lucky, and I took it to heart, and I put a lot of love into it. And I was honestly, and I was really honored to be a part of it, to be a part of the Karate Kid universe and also the Cobra Kai universe. It's a pretty cool thing that I really do. I pride myself on that very much.
How did that opportunity come about for you to be in Cobra Kai?
So at the time, I never even, it was never even in my wheelhouse, like, not in my wheelhouse, in my universe, that I would kind of be in the Cobra Kai world. I just was like, they've got their cast, they've got it all. I just don't even see how I would fit into that world. They're high school kids. I'm not in high school. And so I never even knew that they were going to do flashback sequences. I never knew that. And then, we'd always, my dad and I had always talked about, we talked about the show all the time. And, we talked about, I think that they may be going back into Kreese's backstory a little bit into like Vietnam or something. And we're like, oh, that's cool. So I got a call from my manager one day, and, he told me that they want you to come in for this role. And we didn't really know what it was for. Originally, we thought it was for a young Kreese. And, but then when I got the script, I wasn't. And then I didn't really know what it was. And I studied really hard for like a week. I really put a lot of energy into this. Obviously, I wanted to do well. Dad's on the show. I really wanted to, be able to show my skills and not let anybody down. We always laugh about how embarrassing it would have been if I bombed the audition. Anyway, so I did the audition, and it went really well. I remember talking to the casting directors, telling them, do you want him to be, how much of an a-hole do you want this guy to be? And they said, just full on. We want to hate him. I was like, great, I'll give you that. I've got that. That's in the wheelhouse. I can do it. Bad guys running the family. I know what to do. So they gave me a couple small notes. We did it, and they just loved it. And I got a call about a week and a half to 2 weeks later. My dad was already in Atlanta filming season 3 at the time. And we were literally jumping for joy. It was so exciting, and then I went down there. I met young Kreese, played by Barrett Carnahan, who's a great actor, good friend, just such a good guy. And he was, just thrilled to be playing young Kreese. And it was, it was funny. He was telling me, he's like, so the guy that I'm fighting who's going to play my bully, that's actually Marty's son. And they're like, yeah, that's his son in real life. And he was like, oh, okay. All right. It's like a little intimidating. And, we laughed about that. And so we had a great time. We literally loved beating the hell out of each other. It was so much fun. And the other part of that was, when we were doing like the diner sequence in season 3, my dad was watching in the diner. We had, John Hurwitz, Josh Heald, and Hayden Schlossberg in that directing that day. And they were all in there watching. And, it was so surreal for myself, and also for like, Barrett, to have my dad watching him play him, and then his son playing the bully. It was like this weird Back to the Future moment, like in the diner sequence, it was just one of those moments in life where you're just like, is this really happening right now? Like, are we experiencing this in our body? And like, yeah, it's just, you can't even explain it. It's just like a godsend, I guess. You never know how things like that are going to come up. And this is Ginger, by the way. So, and I remember throughout the day, I just kept thinking how grateful I was. I was just like, man, this is just such a cool opportunity. I'm so grateful. And this is just, what a beautiful thing. It's like it's almost like destiny in a way, So, we shot that, we did the fight sequences, we had a great time. And, it was just, I felt very good about everything we did. And it was great to work with, everybody. I'd met all the crew before. And so, and everybody was excited, to have me on the show, and me being, my father's son. So it was an amazing experience. And I'm so excited to see where the show has gone. I mean, season 3 is the last season that everybody's kind of been left with, I think over, a year and a half almost. I'm trying to remember how long. Yeah, it's been a year and a half. And, people are like, biting at their nails for season 4, which is super exciting. And I can't wait for people to see it. I've seen all of season 4. It's unbelievable. People are just they're going to go crazy. I went crazy when I saw it. So I can't wait for people to see it. Yeah, it's just been great. And I'm excited for people to see season 4 and also to rewatch season 3.
I love that you brought up the Back to the Future analogy, because once I found out who your character was and that you were essentially Kreese's real life son, I'm like, this is a weird like Marty and George McFly kind of deal, totally. Especially with the fact that it was set in a diner, just like right. Back to the Future. So it's so ironic, and you can't write it, that your character is partially a catalyst for John Kreese to become one of the most iconic film bullies of all time.
Wow, that's awesome.
You can't write that.
I will take it. It started with me. I'll take it.
You heard it here first. That's the reason why.
No, this is the inception right here from Varsity Captain David. It was the boom that created the earth.
Exactly. And I was chatting with I had the pleasure of interviewing Gianni DiCenzo, who plays Dimitri in Cobra Kai.
He's great.
And I was mentioning the same thing with him, that Cobra Kai to me has really set the standard for so many different shows, one, in adapting and continuing, I would say old movies from like the 80s and 90s, while bringing back old characters in compelling ways, and also introducing new interesting characters. Because we've seen that trend kind of happen now, and I think we'll see it more over the next couple of years. But Cobra Kai has really set the standard for that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I thank you for saying that. It's even though I had somewhat of a small piece of that, that I've been with the show for several years, and we'll see what happens going forward. But one of the cool things I always thought was amazing about the show is like there's no like major visual effects, there's no guns, there's no car. There actually, well, I guess there was a small car chase, I think, in season 3 or whatever, I think, right? And then there's no if you compare it to like a big Marvel movie, which is like tons of action and huge special effects and fighting and gunfire and explosions and stuff, which is all cool and I love it. Cobra Kai is much more simpler and more humble that way, and there is badass fighting. But, it's just these kids and the story, and it's amazing how gripping it is. And also that nostalgia that's tied into the show. It's for everyone. I mean, everyone can watch the show, which is such a beautiful thing.
And the great thing about it, and comparing it to Marvel movies, and I love most of the Marvel movies that have come out. I'm a fan. But
me too. What
I love about Cobra Kai is that it kind of goes back to what made me fall in love with movies and TV in the first place. The characters and the storytelling. Yep.
The storytelling is, John, Josh, and Hayden, they're just such geniuses, and the other writers as well. The way they've unfolded the story, it's just so beautiful. And you can go back and rewatch and see all these little nuances, and they're so smart in what they've done with the show and how they've driven the show forward, and all the different character payoffs and the stories that each of them go through and deal with. From the adults to the kids, it's just genius. And it also goes to show you what the fans and the audience, us, that we love this kind of this nostalgic aspect to the show. We just love it. It's also it's not very PC, which I think is great. It just kind of breaks the barrier a bit, which I think people could use a little bit more of these days. No offense to anyone, but I just think kind of breaking down the walls a little bit, it's exciting, and it puts you on the edge, and you don't know what's going to happen, and also just adds to the characters, and there's just a realism to it that I think is very unique and unlike many other shows. And everyone I've talked to says how much they love that part of the show, and it's done in a tasteful, funny, creative way.
You mentioning the not being very PC, it's almost like a breath of fresh air in a way, because of how real it can feel at times.
Yes, I agree. And I think that, there's like a perfect voice in every character. Like, my dad's character, kind of like he's the very, very non, politically correct, says what he wants to say, addresses every situation, thinks that, the current generation are snowflakes and all that, as he said in the show. And, what it's cool is that the audience can either agree or disagree with what he says, and at least they're going to have the conversation about it. Whether he's right or there's truth to that, whatever it is, and all the subjects that they talk about. Even the balance between strike first, strike hard, no mercy, or the balance of Miyagi-Do, or the new cutting edge of Eagle Fang.
Yeah,
all that stuff.
Yeah, I actually saw an Eagle Fang karate shirt in a store the other day, and it just the name and the logo just makes me laugh.
It's so great. I remember when they first came up with that name, I was like, what are they going to come up with this new dojo? And I think at the time that my dad was saying, it's like, I don't know, it's like Viper something, or Scorpion Tail or whatever, and then all of a sudden it was like Eagle Fang, and so it's just it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't wait to see what season 4 brings. And I hope the show continues for, as long as the creators and the actors want. As long as they keep telling good stories, I'll be there.
I think if you think about it, if the show continues to do well and people love it, I mean, how could they not? How could the show not keep going? I mean, I don't know. I forget. I don't know what the longest running show is on Netflix. I don't know. But I think even the fact that there's a season 4 of Cobra Kai is a big deal, because I don't remember. I think Netflix shows don't go very long, or they don't go usually past, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 seasons, I think. Or
that sounds about right.
Yeah, so I think because also, if you think about like Breaking Bad, I think Breaking Bad really got popular going into its like 3rd and 4th season, I think. And I don't remember how many seasons Breaking Bad had. I think it was maybe 6 or
like 6 or 7.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously people love these characters, and if they can keep them going, like, it's great. If they can also do it, like, John and those guys, they love to honor the characters, and I think as long as they can do that, who knows? There's a whole world out there. Maybe the Cobra Kai go and do they have a tournament in in Asia or something. Who knows? I mean, that would be fun to go see John Kreese on the Great Wall or something like that. Who knows? I think that it would be. I personally would love to see some stuff like that. It would be very cool.
If that idea hasn't been brought up, that needs to happen for a future season. I'd be all there for it.
Just a punch through the wall, the Great Wall of China would be just a nice little moment.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Yeah.
So to backtrack a little bit, I mentioned you growing up, a '90s kid watching '90s films. Did you know early on that you wanted to follow in the footsteps of your dad and be an actor?
I always appreciated what he did, and it was always fun to see fans come up to him and appreciate his work. And it was and I then, as growing up, I kind of understood what that was all about. And we had movie posters in the house, and some of his movies and others. And he never pushed me to be in the industry at all, ever. Like, he almost didn't want me to be in the industry. He never really said that, but he was very much like, well, it's up to you, Jesse, whatever you want to do, but I'm not going to push you. I always loved entertaining my family and friends and making people laugh. It was always something I enjoyed to do, and then in high school and little college, and I was always in like film and cinema classes, and I was always doing plays. And so I think naturally I just always gravitated towards it. And I loved making movies as a kid with my dad's camera and G.I. Joes and Legos. God, the Lego phase was huge for me.
Oh, love Legos.
You remember when they came out with the little camera that plugged into your PC and you could make like the little stop motion?
Yep.
That was like game changer. I mean, it's almost, when you think about it today, it's like a joke, but like, what we can do with our iPhones, but at the time it was huge. And I remember doing that stuff. And, and then, obviously it got bigger and bigger, and I started doing it professionally, and I've been able to work with my dad on several films, and, going into Cobra Kai. So it's been, every year just gets better than the next. And, we now encourage each other, and he and I talk to each other creatively, and I talk to him all the time about, even like during season 4, I would, we chatted, God, I don't know, 100 times about what his character is dealing with, and what's the backstory to that, and all that kind of stuff. And it's been great. It's been really great. There's certain moments that'll come up in season 4 that are stuff you've never seen before, that I'm really excited for people to see. I know that my dad was very, very excited about. And again, these guys that John, Josh, they know this stuff ahead of time, and they think about it. They're like, oh, if we put this here later on, we're going to be able to see that. And they're just, the roadmap that they've created for season 4 is it's awesome, just awesome. But anyway, that's the little bit of the history with me growing up. And I have no regrets. It's been great. I'm very excited about the future, and yeah.
What's the biggest piece of advice that you got from your dad as far as being in the industry?
Being relentless. Anyone who knows him or has worked with him, they will know that he is just a relentless man, in the best sense. He strives for the best, and he works really hard, and in this, life is tough, life is hard, and, people are going to tell you no a lot faster than they're going to tell you yes. So, if you just take that no, and you kind of just like hold on to it and like throw it over your shoulder, and you can keep pushing forward, you'll do really well in life. And I think that, there are a lot of naysayers out there, and I've literally single-handedly witnessed, my dad's career and his life, and he wouldn't be where he is today if he had just accepted no all the time, So that's something that I take with me, and also to just be a gentleman about things, and in any situation, even in business deals. So, just being relentless is a big thing that I think he's imparted on me.
Absolutely, especially with an industry like the movie business. From what I've seen, you have to have that kind of attitude.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a, it's almost like the Wild West in certain ways. People think they have ideas about what they want, and then someone else brings another idea, and then that's the best idea. And things are always changing and adapting, and it's a beautiful thing, and it's also hard, but it's also extremely rewarding.
Absolutely. So what's next for you? Do you have any post Cobra Kai projects in the works that you'd care to talk about?
It's funny. This actually just came up today. I'm looking at this Western that I may be doing in January. It will probably be one of the most exciting characters I've ever done, and literally a dream. I literally can't tell you anything, but I wish I could. If you get me back in like a month, I can probably talk about it. Also, A Taste of Love. I'm really excited for people to see that. I think that'll be released on either Hulu or Netflix. I did also check out season 2 of Gravesend, which is a show on Amazon. I play a great character who's in the Jewish mafia in the 80s. Really great show. And they season 1 is on Amazon now. I'll be in season 2, and what else is there? God, there's always like so much.
But that's good though.
Yeah. There's always something. I'll be like, oh right, I did this movie. I mean, I'm fortunate enough, but like I was like, oh, that's right, we did this movie a year ago. We're going to talk about it now. I think that's it for right now. There's also several other projects that are in post production, and I've had several projects that aired this year. There was a great a movie I did on Lifetime called My Daughter's Deadly Date. I played the villain in that, which was so much fun. I really enjoy playing the villains. For some reason, I'm naturally good at it. Again, maybe it's because it runs in the family. I don't know, but I think it's because you get a lot of freedom to kind of do what you want when you play a villain. And also, you got to have a little bit of no mercy in you to be able to do it.
Exactly.
So yeah, check that out, and I think that's it for now. Yeah,
I'd love to hear more about this Western that you're doing. Once it's completed, I'd love to have you back on to talk about it, because Westerns, I can remember as a kid, my grandfather would watch Westerns like all the time on TV. There was always a John Wayne movie on. It's either that or Discovery Channel. So I was always drawn to to Westerns at a young age. So.
Yeah, Westerns are like, I think they're really like, every actor always dreams of doing a Western. Back in the day, there was like, I think it was like 3 or 4 out of every 5 movies was a Western, and that was the big thing. And I think that's, cinematically, the history of them, people love them. And, just being I ride horses. I go riding every year. I shoot guns and I train and, with firearms and stuff like that. And so that's, it's a part of who I am and what I do. And I love making Westerns, and just, getting that wardrobe on and putting on, those clothes, or just the boots, the horse, like you just can't, it just doesn't get any better than that. It's almost like you really are, when you make a Western, you're going to get dirty. You're going to get some grime on you, but it's going to look amazing on camera. And it's all part of the fun.
Absolutely. Do you have any website or social media you'd like to plug so the listeners can follow you?
Yeah, it's across the board. It's at Jesse Kove, Jesse Kove, and on Twitter, Instagram. I'm most active on Instagram, and I should be more active on TikTok, but I'm not. I will be, and I'm totally not aging myself at all.
I'm right there with you.
Right. And yeah, I try to get back to people on my messages as much as I can. I love my fans. I just, they're incredible. And I'm so blessed to have them. So, yeah.
And last question, what is one thing, it can be a movie or a series, that you've recently watched that you would recommend to people?
So I just finished, there's actually a few. I'll give you a few. I just finished Invasion on Apple TV. It's all about aliens invading Earth. Like the cast, these actors in the show are incredible. These young kids. It's a very slow burn, but it's really well made. You know, you're kind of on the edge of your seat, waiting to see what. You know, it's one of those shows where they don't really show like the aliens that much. You do eventually see them, but you're such waiting anticipation, the buildup, and the show really looks at like what humans do emotionally if something like that were to really happen. You know, instead of like being all the action of like, you know, exploding these alien spaceships out of the sky, it's really like, okay, like we got to get out of the house, and where are we going to go? And we don't know these people. Can we trust them? And like, we got to find food. It's like, it's really a wonderful, wonderful show. I love Seinfeld, of course, love Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's fantastic. Huge fan of Larry David. And then The Witcher season 2, which I cannot wait to watch. Super excited about that. If anybody hasn't seen season 1, watch it. It's great. Henry Cavill's awesome. I even played the Witcher video games, which were The Witcher 3 was unbelievable. Probably the best video game I think I've ever played. And I played Red Dead Redemption 2. Anyway, I'm giving you like the whole spiel here. I'm a huge nerd if you couldn't tell.
Hey, I'm right there with you. So all that sounds great to me. But yeah, in closing, I just wanted to say, Jesse, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. This was great.
Dude, it was my pleasure. Thank you guys so much. And I'll chat with you soon, man. Thanks, Derek.